fascinating, to see all the journeys, from, 2009 until now, but I can see some similarity, and also we face a similar challenges, from the first presentation, for the street life observation, in-depth interview, and immerse yourself, across culture, across regions, across continents, and, to the very intensive, participation and community engagement, and also the design build projects that the last presenters actually, elaborate on that, and we can see all the techniques, and also how we actually achieve the goals that we aim for. But actually, I believe that all of this can be learning by doing. So in different contexts, different techniques, different, cultures and different people. So we now can learn from each other very well. So thanks a lot for all the presenters from the first sessions in the morning. And we do have some questions for the first presentation. May I also ask the presentation team for the first group? And the question is from, let me scroll down a bit. I think I confused that. From, I don't know how to pronounce that, the Akiwe, and for the first presentation. And they say, she said, good collaborative studies agree with the criticism of the formalistic focus of the approach, lacking in background of the sociological niches and reality checks. So Eva or Booth or others who want to respond to these comments and questions?
We've just been talking outside of this, and we're wondering, okay. could the question asker just explain the question a little bit, just so we're clear on, just more clear on the question.
Okay, so can the Akiwe ask the question again, please? If you
Hi, this is YC Wong. I just make the broad commentary on what I observed was a very good collaborative study and documentation. And I agree with, I think there was an internal assessment of the study as well, which noted that generally the detailed understanding of the social economic niches of street life, particularly hawkers, in Asian cities, they are, I think, simply romantically glazed over. I think the sooner architects have a better understanding of the quite cutthroat economies of street life, the better they are in activating and work in a more critical activist position. My deep fear, I think, is that studies like this generally just validates the romantic and exotic feel of the street life. Not knowing the very hardcore processes that a lot of these hawkers have to go through. I mean, that is my general observation. I don't think it's meant to do any more. And of course, it begs the question of how, going forward, engagement studies like this have to, in a sense, orientate the students to a deeper understanding of the class struggles, I think, of hawkers in the streets, right? I think that's it. That's the context of my question. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for that explanation. I have some thoughts, but I'll hand to Lino if you want to start, or I can.
Yeah, I can start, Eva. Thank you. Thank you so much for your feedback. I think certainly there's a valid point here, and in fact, actually, from the street life studies, and I think a few years after this course has run, Eva and I, and together with our colleague Panya, we were discussing about how to build on this course like that, because it has been interesting to touch on these like introductory conversations and understanding of place and community. And we acknowledge, and yes, through the course like this, we only get to the surface, of the issues and how we want to build more meaningful connections. And therefore, actually, so after a few editions, we started to do an internship program together. So building on the street life studies, we designed and again, a collaborative internships between students from UNSW and students in Phnom Penh, Royal University of Fine Arts and beyond, to actually have more time and focus in one specific neighborhood together, and to be able to actually test the ideas that they emerged from the Street Life Studies program, to actually have more conversations with the community members, and to actually start really have more opportunity to work on designing those ideas with the community members. For example, the project that we did together for this neighborhood called Chendam Dai, which is like an informal district in the city, which has an interesting history and conditions. And this internship share similarity of sort of like the nature of street life studies, but it's just the fact that we have more of a supportive process among the facilitators, including me, Eva, and Panya, to assist the student in their process of building understanding and communications with the community members. Maybe yeah, on this, maybe Eva can say a bit more.
Thanks, Lino. I had the same thoughts, and maybe this relates a bit to the last presentation, which is about the importance of these courses not being one-off amongst a whole program. We presented this course alone, and it's introductory. So I think it's very hard in any single course to reach the depth that you're talking about. However, we agree that that depth of understanding is crucial if we want students to be able to meaningfully contribute to this space. So what Lino is referring to is building this knowledge from this course and connecting it across many. And it was great to see in this Malaysian study about this very holistic approach to community-centered learning across a whole 3 or 4 year program. The other thing we try to do is we're very conscious of this romanticizing, particularly from a colonial kind of perspective, is get students to focus physically on a very small space so that they're not we're avoiding as much as possible a surface level glaze over a large area, but also framing it as in this is the first step in understanding, just the first. And the other steps you would take would be to do this, this, and this, and continue your studies. I know we have many questions, so I'll stop there.
Thank you. So for the question for the paper number 2, what is the main problem students get with these projects pedestrian that community faced it? For the second presentation. Okay. Yeah, I think that is I think it's very interesting that you are introducing wet market, to the young generation that they never seen or they never experienced before. So what kind of things that the problem that students get when they been on site?
So the students have to select what kind of I think what kind of a place which is attractive for them to go to the wet market. So instead of only presenting the wet market is selling fresh food, they select which place is attractive. For example, the bookstore, and then there is a warung or a food, a kind of dining culinary that is used to be that was previously visited by our first president. So they try to introduce that open market or wet market, in this case the historical one, is also a fun place to see. that's what I get from the students. And Butina, would you like to add something?
I think it's enough already.
Okay, yeah, I think that's our answer.
Okay, thank you. So I move to the paper number 3. So the questions are a few, but you know, I don't know how to summarize that in a few questions, but just want to read through that. The first question is what the definition of participation that you use when work with the communities. So, and also how the student, you know, knowing about that participation and perceive that.
Yeah, actually, I just responded in the chat. Maybe we can just quickly share that we built on Sherry Einstein definition of letter of citizen participation. But of course, over the decades, things have changed and move on. So we also try to augment that with current understanding based on other contemporary scholars like Henry Sanoff, Raquel Lark, and looking at how participation is always becoming and pluralistic and incomplete as a process rather than an outcome, and see how we can see that as a way to translate into the Singapore kind of context, which I think is also very different from the West. Or even among all the ASEAN countries, I think each of us has a very different context, so we need to sort of contextualize it. But students' definition is something that I can't really speak for them, but it varies greatly. Some are okay with that. Some are really struggling because, as you know, Singapore is quite very rigorous in terms of the education since primary school until university. So when we are introducing all this participatory, very bottom-up kind of approach, it kinds of really challenge their original way of construct of the world. So that is really a mindset change. Even now, still, I'm having, you know, students feedback that it's not possible in Singapore. So it's something that we are still trying to struggle with.
Okay, thank you. I think maybe we're running out of time. So probably the last question for the paper number 4. What aspect relation between vernacular architecture with projects based on communities, and what community get to upgrade their life cycles?
Yeah, thank you. This is a very good question that I just hope that I have more time to elaborate on that. But basically, of all the community projects that we've been working on, after discuss with the community, we understand that they actually, the members of the community consist of different kind of people. Some of them are not new to architecture. Some of them even the experienced builder. So when we discuss with them, so meaning that they actually already got the skill to do something on their own. It's just that they are no longer allowed to do due to the Code of Architects, the practices, especially in the city. So therefore, I think the challenge of this, the vernacular, the ideas of vernacular is that it's something that is really much associated with the place. I think the spirit of a place that the people themselves are able to do instead of waiting for the professionals to come in and help them. So we incorporate this idea into our community project. So we co-design and co-build the things so that the student learn. Another way, the understandings of architecture no longer just eventually being an elite in the society, but it's ourselves as well as part of the community member. We are just one of them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, I think that, you know, we will have like 10 minutes break, but if, you know, anybody have some burning questions and, you know, want to ask maybe one last question for these morning sessions. So, or if you don't, that's fine. So maybe I return floor to Chan again to manage for the short break and also for the following sessions.
Yes, thank you very much.